non-profitable and first profitable direction, etc. So let's look at this noble truth of the origin of suffering, the second noble truth. And it says that it is that craving which gives rise to rebirth, accompanied by pleasure and delight. Finding fresh delight now here, now there. That is to say, we are developing craving of sensuality, craving of existence, craving for non-existence in doing this, looking for pleasure and delight. Now, when you do that, what happens is, if there's anything agreeable, pleasurable, then there is going to be craving. It arises and it establishes. Now, that's what happens in this second noble truth of origin of suffering. And what is there in the world that is agreeable and pleasurable? We have got eye, we have got the ear, the nose, tongue, body, the mind. Now, these senses are giving us anything agreeable and pleasurable. And you get stuck with that, with craving for sensuality, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. So, since there is craving arises and establishes itself, we are going to look at only very briefly. Let's concentrate only one sense. This, the sense of eye. We can similarly look for ear, nose, etc. But let's consider only the eye. Now, if you look at the eye, what it means is that we have got, once you have got the eye looking at the pleasurable, agreeable, pleasurable object, eye conscious comes around. After that, eye contact, then feeling born of eye contact, and the perception of sights. Then it goes to volition in regard to sights. Then we have a craving for sights, and then you go into thinking of sights, pondering on sights, etc. Now, once this is done, what we have is, we have got the craving arising and establishing itself. And that's how we get into this system of developing craving. That is the main reason that we have got here. Now, the third noble truth, what we have discussed last time briefly, the noble truth of cessation of suffering, it is actually the extinction of that craving we developed. We have to make a concerted effort and then try to extinct that craving, forsaking and abandoning, liberating from it and detaching. How does this craving come to be abandoned? How does its cessation come about is what is discussed in the third noble truth. And where in the world there is anything agreeable and pleasurable, their cessation comes about. That's what we are trying to do. And what is there in the world that is agreeable and pleasurable? We just discussed a little while ago. The eye in the world is agreeable and pleasurable. We will not discuss the other senses. Let's go to eye. We have eye consciousness, but what we are planning to do now is there is this craving that comes to be abandoned. There is cessation that has to come about. That's what we are planning in this. So likewise, eye consciousness can be removed. Similarly, if the craving can be abandoned and cessation can be effected. And likewise, what we discussed previously, the sights, eye contact, etc., all can be done. So that involves perception of sights, volition, craving, thinking, and pondering. Thinking is you get into that the sight that you had is thought about, and then you keep on going deeper and deeper, pondering on the sight. And when that is done, in this particular case, if you can cease all those cravings, and that is what is called the noble truth of cessation of suffering. Now, if you remember, Dr. Lalit followed after this concentration sutta. And the concentration sutta, what it does really is, the Buddha says, bhikkhus develop concentration. A bhikkhu is concentrated, who is concentrated, understand things as they really are. What does he understand as it really is? The origin and passing away of form. Likewise, origin and passing away of feeling. Let's concentrate only on form. All the other things can be similarly understood. So once you have got this origin and passing away of form, Buddha says, because what is the origin of form? Then he says, the bhikkhus, one seeks delight. Remember the eye that we have got? We have got pleasurable objects, therefore we look at it and then seeks delight. Then you welcome it, then one remains holding. And what is it that one seeks delight in? What does one welcome to? What does one remain holding? One seeks delight in form, welcomes it, remains holding. As a consequence of this, delight arises. Delight in form is clinging. With one's clinging as condition, existence comes to be. With existence as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, despair come to be. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. We discussed suffering last time when we were discussing this Four Noble Truths first one. And then in the concentration sutta, Buddha goes further saying, and what bhikkhus is the passing away of form. Here, the bhikkhus, one does not seek delight, one does not welcome, one does not remain holding. And what is it that one does not seek delight? He does not welcome and he does not remain holding. One does not seek delight in form. Agreeable, pleasurable objects is not thought about, not pondered, and then etc. is completely given up. Does not welcome it, does not remain holding. As a consequence of this, delight in form ceases. With the cessation of delight comes cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging, cessation of existence, and therefore the cessation of whole mass of suffering. So likewise, we can go on to other aspects of feeling perception, but today we will concentrate only on the form. Now, I like to add here as a interlude what Dr. Lalit has given as Girimananda Sutta. In the Girimananda Sutta, Buddha talks about a situation where there was a monk called Girimananda who was sick, and when Venerable Ananda requested Buddha to go there and then sort of get his affliction removed, Buddha said, why don't you learn these things and go and recite to Girimananda, Venerable Girimananda, and then he will be automatically or immediately be free from the affliction. Now, in this, what the Buddha says is, there are 10 perceptions. The first is called contemplation of impermanence, and then contemplation of anatta, absence of permanent soul. Then foulness, disadvantage, how to abandon, detachment and cessation, distaste of the whole world, impermanence of all component things, and then mindfulness in breathing and out breathing. I want to concentrate today only one aspect, contemplation of impermanence. And what Ananda is contemplation of impermanence? Herein, Ananda, a monk having gone to the forest or to the foot of a tree or to an empty house, a lonely place, contemplates thus. Matter, visible objects, is impermanent. It's something like form. Feeling or sensation is impermanent. Perception is impermanent. Formations are impermanent. These are called volitional formation. Consciousness is impermanent. Thus, he dwells contemplating impermanence in these 5 aggregates. These are the 5 aggregates. This Ananda is called the contemplation of impermanence. So let's go down on this sutta, and then at the end of the sutta, we come to this impermanence thing. What is the impermanent thing? As you see here, These are the notes from Dr. Ranatunga's English talk in his website on the impermanence. He says, having gone to forest or foot of a tree or lonely place, contemplate. Matter is impermanent. Matter is the same as form. Feeling or sensation impermanent. Perception, formation, consciousness. These five aggregates are impermanent. And then we have got the matter, as we know, it's made out of four great elements: extension, heat, motion, cohesion. I'm not going to discuss some of these things in great detail because I'm only looking at today the impermanence as such. And these things are found in whatever the form: sound, smell, taste, and those included in material in our body. Now, also we have feeling, perception, formation, and volitional formation, etc. But I'm not going to deal with those things right now today. Now, here is a little graph that I managed to draw. Now, those who are having a science-based education will know that we have a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. On this horizontal axis, I have plotted time scale. It can be years, can be anything like that, going from 0 to 120. And this can be any vertical axis, can be any unit or anything that you like. But I'm going to only plot aging. So if somebody is born at 0 time, his aging will increase like this. And at some stage, like this, what you call lightning sign, he dies. Sometimes he may stay like mind-made body, or he may go to one of the hells or the departed ones, depending upon what action he has already done during his lifespan. If he's in a mind-made body, he may be reborn as a human being or somebody else. Now, if there's a second person or second being, he may be born like this, he dies, he may go to a different birth. So I'm not going to talk about any more than that. But what is important is this horizontal axis time scale is very independent of anything else. From any point that you call 0, it keeps on increasing all the time. So just like that, our aging keeps on going up and up. It does not stop any point. Therefore, we have what we call all forms are continually aging. So since they are continually aging, at some point it will just die, or the consciousness will die, and then you get to a different form. So if you have got craving, once you have finished one life, you get into the next life, and it keeps on going. So that's how the samsaric karma comes in. So this is applicable to any form, whether it is any being or even an object. You can take, for instance, the sun. Sun will one day die, and then it will change its form. So everything is changing. So that's the interesting thing here. So impermanence comes into the picture. So in many instances, Buddha raised the following series of questions. Some of you may remember this. This is one case in the Sona Sutta. What do you think, Sona? Even he asked once Rahula, is form permanent or impermanent? And their answer was impermanent, Venerable Sir. Then Buddha asked next, what is impermanent, suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. And the third question is what is impermanent? That's coming from here. Is suffering, coming from there, and subject to change, aging or jara, fit to be regarded thus. This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. This is the standard answer that everybody gives to Buddha's 3 questions. So if there is something impermanent, suffering, there is nothing that we should hold on to it. So seeing thus, Sona, in this particular case, the instructor noble disciple experienced revulsion towards form. It's like revulsion towards other things like feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness. experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. He's losing interest. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it is liberated. He understands, destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. So they are the Arahant and those lucky ones who are yet to go to the Nibbana. So this is written in Sinhalese, Kina Jata Rusita Brahmacharyan Katang Karaniya, etc. So you can see, I concentrated only on the impermanence and how we can get out of this craving using this method. Now I want to concentrate on, as the part D here, in Dr. Lalit's Ranatunga's part C, Satra Agati. He talks about the four unprofitable directions. There are four parts of the nutrients we have got. The Kabalinkara Ahara, and then you have got the second one is called contact, likewise. So let's concentrate only on the first one. The first one, the term agati in the Pali means going bad way. And there are four different ways of going bad way. The first part that we have got the form as nutrients, we end up with chandagati, going bad way to ill will. So likewise, there are three other what we call nutrients, and they are ending up with three other agatis. So there are 40 defilements that constitute these bad ways. Each of them has got 10, so 10 times 4 become 40. These bad ways are known as unprofitable directions. So one can consider these as 40 kinds of sicknesses. So we have got sicknesses. Because of these sicknesses, we have got 40 kinds if you go to the four different nutrients. So let's consider only the Chandagati, the first what we call the nutrient case, and therefore we have 10 defilements and 10 sicknesses. And there are also 4 profitable directions that describe medicine for these sicknesses. So after this, we will talk about the profitable direction briefly. The first unprofitable direction has got these 10 items here. This is the Pali terms here. The first is physical nutriment, the perversion that there is fair in the fowl, in clinging to sensual desire, the bond of sensual desire, body tie or covetousness, etc. So let's look at each of them. The first unprofitable direction, it originates from edible food. Thus, with the physical nutrient, the perversion that there is beauty in the ugly, clinging to sensual desire, etc., will come into the picture. We have what perversion called beauty in the ugly. We think there is something ugly, but we think it is beautiful. Although it is ugly, you get into this perversion that it is beautiful. Now, it has got the perversion has got 3 parts. One is called that you what do you call see it. Therefore, there is a perception that it is beautiful, and then there is a thought, and then there is a view. Now, because of these 3 perversion, we think that something that is ugly really is taken as beautiful. Now, in Doctor's website, he goes to talk about how the edible food should be understood using the Puttamantra Sutra. And I'm not going to discuss this in detail, but I think what you should do is to read through those sections and get the meaning in depth, and then you will be able to understand this explanation much better. Now, the second one is called the perversion that I discussed a little while ago. There are 4 perversions. One is based on perception, then 4 based on thought, and the 4 based on view. And The first perversion is based on the permanence. We have a permanence as a perversion based on its perception, thought, and view. What it means is that you look at something and then say, oh, this is permanent, this will last for a long time. That's the perception. Then you think about it and get into a thought. Oh, I had this similar thing lasting for so many years, therefore this will also last. And then view, you hold on to a view that is all related to permanence. So permanence has got perversion, perception, perversion, thought, and perversion view. To hold that in the suffering that there is not suffering is a perversion of perception. Now suffering is the reality, but sometimes you say you don't suffer and therefore you have hold onto the perception as a perversion, where you say that this suffering is not really suffering. Then you have a thought and then we have a view. Similarly, you hold on to a self and then say, when it is not self, you say there is self. So you have therefore three perversions there. And to hold that in the foul, that there is fair, is a perversion of perception, thought, and view. So in the case of the this particular case of the form, we are looking at the fact that there is foul that is taking place. It is smelly and it is going to decay very fast, but we think, oh, it is fair, and therefore you hold on to the perversion of perception, thought, and view in relation to the foul nature of this material. So let's look at the next stage. Now, if you hold on to such a perversion that something that is foul really is beautiful and it is fair, then what happens is you get into this clinging to sensual desire. These five are the strands of sensual desire that are pleasant and agreeable. Forms, and then you have got into this, you have eye consciousness, sound, etc. So likewise, you can get into the system where sensual pleasures are coming as pleasant and agreeable. And because of that, you get clinging to the sensual desire. And if you get into clinging to sensual desire, then you get into a bond of the sensual desire. Sensual desires bind beings to the rounds of birth. So not only you like to have this sensual desire kind of fulfilled in this birth, next birth also you like to get it. So you keep on what you call connecting yourself and binding yourself to the samsara, or the birth and rebirth, unending rebirth, and hence it is called the bond of sensual desire. And we have got four of these things, and we looked at it: the bond of sensuality, the bond of existence, bond of views, and bond of ignorance. These are the bonds that we are actually held up in this long samsaric journey: sensuality, existence, views, and ignorance. And then we come to this next stage, the body tie of covetousness, abhijja kaya grantha. Since we are sort of attaching to what is foul, the form, we attach a kind of a perversion saying that it is fair. Then what happens is, since we are keep on working on that sort of system, we get into a body tie of covetousness. This is that we get kind of bound deeply into it, and because of that, you go to the next stage, the taint of sensual desire, as shown there. It is called kama asava, the taint of sensual desire due to the body tie of covetousness. What we have got in the earlier part, it is biased towards sensual desires. Characteristics of the taint of sensual desire is any sticking to and biased toward the five bases. From there, you go into flood of sensual desire. Once you have got that sensual desire as a taint, you get into a situation where you cannot get rid of it. Therefore, you will be carried down, as in the case of flood. When the taint of sensual desire comes to abundance, it is called the flood of sensual desire. Then you get into the next level, and the next level is that because of this flood situation, you get the barb of lust. It's something that you cannot get rid of. It's like a arrow that has got stuck in your the body or the mind, and therefore you keep on coming round and round. And this is what it called, when the flood of sensual desire have entered the inclination and accompanied by underlying tendency, it is called the barb of lust. So it is like something that you keep on taking as a tasty food, and then you don't stop with that. You keep on consuming it over and over again. So it gets into barb of lust. And then we have here the form as steadying point for consciousness comes onto it. Because now the consciousness is the one behind all these things. It's coming and getting sort of stuck onto the form. And in this situation, it is called the consciousness passing on, then becoming a steadying point. So all the time you like to stay with that form and then keep on sort of going through all the sensual desires, and you will find it is difficult to get rid of it. And we have the 10th point, the 10th sickness of this particular state is that the going a bad way through will. You willingly go through this bad way and then get into a system that you cannot get out of it. So that's how you actually develop all the craving through the first physical nutriment. Now, if you look at those 10 parts as sicknesses, how do you get rid of those 10 sicknesses, and what are the medicine? And this comes in the first profitable direction. And the first profitable direction is out of the four. We are dealing with only the physical nutriment that we discussed a little while ago. If they are considered as 10 sicknesses, we are going to have 10 medicines for this particular situation to work out as first profitable direction. So the first profitable direction, therefore, with respect to physical nutrients, is called the painful way with sluggish acquaintanceship. Painful way with sluggish acquaintanceship means it's not a very fast way of doing, so it's a very slow process. It's a painful way means you have to work with things like the form and the feeling, etc. And because of that, there is great pain in this situation, physically exercising pain in this situation, and it is rather slow in performance. And these are the 10 medicine for the 10 sicknesses that we discussed earlier in the unprofitable direction. The first one, the painful way, is sluggish acquaintanceship, and then you get the first meditation, first round of mindfulness, etc. And then we ending up with loving kindness. So let's look at some of these things in some details. When you look at these things, you see that because what is the difficult means of slow realization? That is the meaning of the sluggish, the painful way with sluggish realization. Certain one abides reflecting loathsomeness in the body. That means you look at the body, physical nutrients, etc., and look at its loathsomeness. Loathsomeness in food, detachment from all the world, seeing impermanence in all determinations, and the perception of death is thoroughly established in him. So if you don't do these things, you will find it difficult to get rid of the sensual desires. Supposing your body is beautiful, etc., and you are not subjected to death, then you won't see that death as a dukkha, death as something permanent that you are going to get, permanently that you are going to get, or without any doubt. And similarly, if you see that certain things are permanent, then you will find it difficult to determine whether those perversion can be removed, because impermanence means that all the things are what you call impermanent, and therefore they have to change, as I showed you in that aging diagram. Similarly, we have to detach from all the world, and we have to have the food that we eat, physical nutrient, etc., loathsome in that, and then also the body is full of loathsomeness. And when you do this, we have got the following powers of faith, shame, remorse, effort, and wisdom, and also the faculties, 5 faculties, faith, effort, mindful, consider, etc., are developed. But right now, all these things are blunt in this person, and therefore he is going a slow realization. The destruction of desire slowly with successive leading, etc. So therefore, that's the term that's given for this particular case of slow realization, and then getting the medicine for the 10 different sicknesses. The first meditation, the second stage of this is that the first meditation is accompanied by initial thought and discursive thought, is born of aloofness and is rapturous and joyful. So it is accompanied by initial thought. What are we thinking about here? We are aloof from the pleasures and senses. So if you look at the eye, with the eye sense, you will get pleasurable sights, etc. We become aloof. We remove those things. So when you start removing them and aloof from unskilled states of mind, etc., then we will have what is called initial thought, and then based on those initial thought, we can have further discursive thoughts. And these initial thoughts are to remove the sensual desires that we would have probably had as part of the sickness. So when this is done, you suddenly become aware of the rapturous and joyful state of this first meditation. So there are 3 kinds of thought, namely the thought of renunciation. We renounce. We renounce from all these what you call the sensual pleasures. Then we thought of non-ill will. If we have got ill will, we will remove them and then have the thought of non-ill will and thought of non-harming. So these are the 3 major parts that we have to look at: thought of renunciation, non-ill will, and non-harming, etc. When this is done, we are having accompanied by initial thought and discursive thought. And that will give you certain amount of rapturous and joyful feeling because of this meditation. That is called the first jhana. So once this has been done, you go to the next stage, the first foundation of mindfulness. This is discussed in great detail in Mahasatipatthana Sutra, and we are only looking at the physical nutriment, etc., mindfulness regarding the body. And this has been discussed in great length in other places such as Satipatthana Sutra, etc. And what we see here is that how one would breathe in and breathe out, etc., based on the need for doing the short breath and long breath, etc. So we are therefore connecting between the physical nutriments and the mindfulness here. Then the next 4th one is the first abiding. This first abiding is when we remove the sensual desires and you concentrate on the mindfulness, and you, what would you think about in the mindfulness? You are thinking about how did I sort of create this, the body that is decaying, is impermanent and giving rise to suffering, etc. You use that concentration sutta, or the concentration, what you call sutta, that we discussed a little while ago, and then say that this has been done because of the what you call the development of desire, etc., and clinging on to the pleasures, etc. Because of that, we created this body, and then you go to the next stage to get rid of the body by saying that I'm not going to get what you call it, looking at this and welcoming it and then clinging on to it using the same concentration sutta. So when you do that, you get into the first abiding, which means that you will probably get into one of the abiding state called either I think is journalable. In the sorry, in the other nutriment areas, we have different types of jhana levels, etc. And the next one, the first right endeavor, is the effort that you have to make. Here, the monk will arouse his will, makes an effort, stirs up energy, exerts his mind, and strives to prevent the arising of unarisen, evil, unwholesome mental states. So this is the first effort out of the four effort that we discussed under the Noble Eightfold Path. This effort looks at the unwholesome mental state that have already arisen, unarisen evil, unwholesome mental state. We don't want to arise them. We don't want to allow them to occur. So in order to do that, we develop a will, makes an effort, stirs up energy. Now this is very interesting here. Although you have an effort, if you don't stirs up an energy, your mind cannot be put into action to eventuate the effort that you want to cultivate here. And then what happens is you develop the mind by exerting the mind and strives to prevent the arising of unarisen, evil, unwholesome mental state. So that is the first right endeavor in this case. Then you get the next one. You can see that the next one is the first wonderful and marvelous idea. This is the noble truth of suffering. We discussed this when we were discussing the Four Noble Truths. And just before that, what we discussed, the first right endeavor, if you compare this with the unprofitable direction, this actually talks about the Abhijaya Kaya Grantha, that's the, if I remember correct, body tie of the craving that comes in with this particular case. So we counteract that with making this first effort with respect to preventing arising of unarisen, unwholesome mental states. And then we come to this first wonderful and marvelous idea, that is the first noble truth, that there is suffering, everything is suffering here. And then you get the first determination. The first determination is the determination for truth. What is the determination of truth? We find the definition of the determination of truth in this Dhatu Vibhanga Sutra. What we say is that apart from the Nibbana, everything else is untrue. If you say that this body is mine, it's a fallacy. If you say that this is an illness, it can be cured using some medicine, it is not a truth, it is a fallacy, it will not work. So the only thing that is working is the noble, Four Noble Truth, and that is what is called the first determination of the truth. So the first determination is that only the Nibbana is the first truth, and There is no other truth apart from Nibbana. For that which is liable to falsity, monk, is falsehood. The truth which is not liable to falsity is Nibbana. Therefore, endowed thus, a monk is endowed with this highest Aryan truth, that is to say, Nibbana. And then you get the eighth stage is the concentration due to desire. What is our desire? Now, since we have got sensuality that we want to cut the sensuality off, our desire is to go to the Nibbana and remove all the other unnecessary sensual desires. So a bhikkhu gains concentration, gains one-pointedness, mind based upon desire. This is called concentration due to desire. So your entire wish is to develop a desire to attain the Nibbana and then get rid of all the other sensual desires. He generates desire for the non-arising of unarising evil, unwholesome states, makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the abandoning of arising evil, unwholesome states. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for rising of unarising wholesome states. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the maintenance of arising wholesome states, for their non-decay, increase, expansion, and fulfillment by development. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. These are called volitional formation of striving. Thus, this desire and this concentration due desire and this volitional formation of striving is called the basis of spiritual powers that possesses concentration due to desire and volitional formation of striving. So we have got therefore spiritual powers that come into this situation, and we have concentration due to desire. The first concentration due to desire called Chanda Samadhi in this particular situation. Then we have got the next stage is the restraining faculties. We have got eye, nose, ear, etc., all the faculties, and we are having restraining effect on these faculties, and this is called a faculty restraint. When you restrain your, let's say, the eye without looking at agreeable and pleasurable objects, or if you have seen it, you don't continue with that, you stop quickly, and that is called you are restraining your eye, restraining your observation and vision. So here, a monk, on seeing a visible object with the eye, does not grasp at its major signs or secondary characteristics, because greed and sorrow, evil, unskilled state would overwhelm him if he dwelt, leaving this eye faculty unguarded. So he practices guarding it. He protects the eye faculty, develops restraint on the eye faculty. Similarly, sound, etc., with ear that comes in, nose and other senses. So I only took the ear as an example in this situation. So once this is done, we have got the 10th one, the loving kindness. This loving kindness actually removes that the agati, or the desire for going into the craving. So the extreme craving will be removed using this loving kindness. A bhikkhu dwells with mind accompanied by loving kindness, suffusing one direction, also a second direction, and third direction, fourth direction. So all directions, above, below, around, everywhere. Identify himself with all these things. He dwells, suffusing the world of all beings with mind accompanied by loving kindness. Extensive, sublime, unlimited, without enmity, without ill will. And how does a bhikkhu dwell with mind accompanied by loving kindness? Just he, seeing, may love or lovely, pleasant person, in the same way he suffuses all beings with loving kindness. Loving kindness gives mental freedom from ill will. So you can see that I brought you today based on the second and third Four Noble Truths into impermanence, and therefore we have got this aging phenomenon, and looked at the first physical nutriment, how we get into the unprofitable direction, and how we what you call cure those 10 parts using the first profitable direction. So I think that covers up what was in my mind, what I should discuss today. And the best would be that you take to Dr. Ranatunga's website, visit the Maga info, and look at the unprofitable direction and first profitable direction, and then go through the video presentation there and try to understand the Dhamma point that I discussed, I brought forward for the discussion. So with that, I think I would probably end up this presentation. And if there's anybody who would like to raise a question, I'll make an attempt to answer them. I may not be perfectly correct. If that is the case, we will discuss this perhaps sometime tomorrow when we discuss the questions and other problem that you may have. Okay, with that, I will end up this presentation.
Thank you very much, Karwaya, Manoaya, Kamniaka. Thank you very much, Apramana Ping.
Tomorrow our question and answer session will start early, 5:45 p.m. Sydney time, so you can work out what is the time. It's exactly the same as the last week, Friday. I think there are apparently no questions that need to be raised today. So perhaps if there are no questions, we can probably wait until tomorrow evening presentation at 5:45. If there are no questions, we can end our discussion today. So let's say Sadhu and Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for your participation.